There are a number of threats for coral reefs in Australia and around the world, and we're dealing as best as we can with these threats with the management strategies that we put in place. But the reality is that climate change is growing as a threat, and the impact that it's having on the coral reefs, and we need to find new solutions and new interventions to deal with that increasing threat. We've started the process by selecting the right corals, and we've mass-produced those and released them in significant quantities into the wild. Then they will do the same. After a few years, they'll be able to reproduce themselves and spread their genes and their traits and continue to improve essentially the resistance of the population, or the tolerance of the population of corals to the impact of climate change. The steps in this aquaculture process is to, first of all, identify and collect corals from the wild. And these corals will be brought back in the facility, but then we'll return them once we're finished, so they can remain in their environment. Once the coral are in the facility, what we do is keep them in their natural conditions as much as possible, and then when the time is right, we let them spawn. Spawning is the process when these corals start reproducing. So we breed corals with each other, and we make essentially baby corals that we then let grow in the aquaculture facility. Once we have these baby corals, we keep them for a few days until they're ready to settle. So what they do then is find a suitable substrate to settle and grow into these polyps, essentially young corals. So we provide them with the substrates and the settlement sheets, we call them, and they settle on this, and we let them grow for a few weeks until they're ready to be taken back into the environment. Once they're ready, these corals, we actually start taking them to the field, and we assemble them into devices that will allow those corals to be reimplanted directly onto the reef. And we want them to anchor themselves down there, and within the natural conditions, they will start growing and become adult corals, which themselves will reproduce in the future. At the end of the day, we need to produce as many corals as we can safely without any disease, and we need these corals to be produced at the lowest cost possible. So think about that very much as a production line, and there are many ways we can improve this process along the way.